I'm Mayor Lovely Warren. A beautiful soul lost his life. He couldn't breathe. After 8 minutes and 46 seconds at the hand of someone that was sworn to protect and serve. Some protested in silence. Some expressed outrage through words written. Some rioted and destroyed property in anger and disgust. And some developed pathways for change. But here we are, wondering what's next. Any discussion on a path forward must first begin with us as a city, county, state, and nation, accepting an undeniable truth that our nation's history was built on a foundation of inequality and racism, including the original sins of colonization and slavery. And what we are witnessing and living through at this moment and the countless times before are a direct result of these historic atrocities. I remember the feeling, the anger, the rage I felt watching Rodney King lying on that ground, screaming, and no help came his way. I was in high school watching this unfold on the screen. My classmates and I cried, swore, and screamed when we felt like justice had been denied. That was my first. But Rodney King wasn't the first, nor Amadou Diallo, nor Eric Gardner, nor Breonna Taylor, nor Christopher Pate. They weren't the first. You see, I don't know the name of the first person, and neither do any of you. But what we all can attest to is that this has been happening in this country for generations. How many lives lost? How many families destroyed? How many is enough? And that is why I became an attorney. That is why I dedicated my life and career to fighting against injustice, racism, and inequality in all of its forms. Now I am calling on our entire community to come together as you did last Sunday, as Joseph C. Wilson, founder of Xerox, and Minister Florence did after the riots of 1964. And let's collectively fight together against systematic and institutional inequities. The structure of our legal, educational, economic, and political systems were designed to keep Black and brown Americans fighting for a pathway to success. You do know what I mean. Redlining, limited access to credit, higher interest rates, exclusion from upward mobility, constant roadblocks, setbacks, and setups, miseducation of our children, the imprisonment of our young men, and the entrapment within a vicious cycle of poverty, systems designed to oppress. So while here in Rochester, we will work on rebuilding and repair and restore our city's business sector, at the same time, we must meet the immediate needs of our citizens. I heard you. I heard you before, and I hear you now. We will not stop at merely treating the symptoms of violence and its aftermath. We will dedicate ourselves to fundamentally changing our institutions, our economy, and our government in order to eradicate systematic inequality and racism. The great Shirley Chisholm said, "You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines. You make progress by implementing ideas." So as your mayor, I ask you, my fellow Rochesterians, to join with me and commit to implementing ideas and strategies to combat inequalities and help us build a stairway out of poverty. Help us provide our children with a fighting chance at life. Help our citizens open businesses in their own neighborhoods. Help us move Rochester from where we are today to where we know we can go tomorrow. We have to be committed to doing this 365 days of the year, not just in times of turmoil. That is why in Rochester, we adopted Noble's community policing policies long before the events of last week. We banned chokeholds, provided de-escalation training, required verbalized warnings, and demand that our officers intervene when they see someone acting outside of our policies, and hold them accountable when they fail to do so. We regularly review our policies and procedures and post them online for complete transparency. We adopted the most comprehensive police accountability board legislation and proposed in this year's budget to remove police officers from our schools. And I'm calling on our school district to remove metal detectors and asking the New York State Legislature to send legislation to the governor to repeal 50A. Beyond our policing policies, we position city government to address the fundamental challenges our citizens face by embedding the race, equity, and leadership, or our REAL initiative, into our budget, appointing a chief equity officer to lead the REAL Rapid Response Team, opened financial empowerment centers, created the Office of Community Wealth Building to help people start businesses. We're building La Marqueta, an incubator for neighborhood economic development, fulfilling a promise made to our Latino community generations ago, and bringing new affordable and workforce housing to every corner of our city. We're launching the Rochester Revitalization Fund in partnership with Redco, Empire State Development, and banking institutions to rebuild and strengthen our commercial corridors. And we're offering innovative youth programs like the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, Biz Kids, Youth Sports, and Open Rec to empower our future leaders. And we will not stop there. We will continue to work and focus every day on creating a city where we eradicate systematic and institutionalized racism in its entirety. And we intend to do this by leading from the front. That is why we have the most diverse and progressive city hall this community has ever seen. But let me be clear. Our problem didn't start when George Floyd died. It didn't start in 1964. So the work will not be done in a month or a year, or maybe not even in a decade. This is lifetime work. The work that I will have to do, that my daughter will have to do, that my future grandchildren will have to do. The work that my grandparents did. The goal is to continue to make progress, to normalize equity and opportunity so that all can be uplifted. And we cannot do this alone. It will take every level of government, every elected official. It will take our employers, our schools, our houses of worship, our media. Most importantly, it will take each and every one of you. Look into your hearts. Examine your strengths, biases, and flaws. Let us collectively commit to change. Any good government is only as good as the people it governs. I am determined and dedicated to doing the work necessary within myself and within our city to work towards a more equitable society. I ask that you join me. If you are an employer like Joseph C. Wilson, examine your organization. Do you have a plan to intentionally lift up others that don't look like you or come from the same background? Will you address the inequities in your organization? If you are an educator, do you truly understand how your students learn or the trauma they may face? Are you recognizing the biases you may be bringing into your classroom? If you are a parent, what role do you play in your child's ability to be successful? Have you created the right environment at home for your child to thrive in school? Or is school their safe haven? As a citizen and fellow human being, ask yourself, what can you do to help? Are you acting with disdain or with compassion? And members of our faith community, what does Sunday morning look like to you? Will you make connections to other faith organizations to share, build, and learn from one another? I want us to realize the answer to those questions lies in each of us. We have the power to change, the power to make different choices. But if you need help figuring out what and how you can play a role in uplifting Rochester, please contact us at cityofrochester.gov/real. We're here to help, not just to have the conversation about change, but to implement change in our businesses, classrooms, and community. I believe in the power of us, in each of us as Rochesterians. I believe in the potential of our great city and our nation to change. I know with God's grace in our hearts, we will prevail because greater is He that is within us than he that is in the world. Be well.